In this video, we will try to understand why do we need CommonJS, what exactly is CommonJS, and how does CommonJS improve the life of a JavaScript developer. But before I start this session, with my full heart and with my full respect, I would like to thank Mr. Kevin to introduce CommonJS, because as a JavaScript developer, I feel that if CommonJS or if this module frameworks were not existing, right, I'm not sure, how the coordination between JavaScript developers would have happened, right? So in case you want to thank Mr. Kevin, you can go and thank him over here at kevin@kevindanguru.com. So Kevin was working with, I think he was working at the time when he talked about CommonJS, he was working with Mozilla as an engineer, and he created one thing called as Server.js group, right? So if you see, here is a small blog which he had written at that time in 2009 about Server.js group, and this small paragraph, actually tells what the Server.js group is, right? What is the goal of Server.js group? So the Server.js group, what Kevin was working on, it is not exactly solving a technical problem, but it is about how to get together the JavaScript people and build something bigger and coordinate in a more better way, right? So you can see here, Kevin has clearly mentioned in his blog, what I'm describing here is not a technical problem. It is a matter of people getting together, making decisions to step forward and start building something bigger and cooler. And that's what exactly is CommonJS. The Server.js group, later, has been updated to something called as CommonJS. So that was a small history, and the goal of CommonJS, or you can say the old name Server.js, is that to see that how JavaScript developers can collaborate together, how JavaScript developer can utilize or reference each other's module in a very easy way. So now, in order to understand, why CommonJS came into picture, let us try to rewind back in 2007, 2008, wherein JavaScript people were creating JS files and they were creating functions and they were trying to do that work, right? For example, now think about it. I have created a utility.js. So let me go and create a JavaScript file here called as utilities.js, right? In this utilities.js, I'm going to go and put a lot of things. I'm going to go and put like logging. So I will have logging using event viewer, right? So let us say this is logging using event viewer. I can have logging using a file. I can have logging using an email, right? And this utilities.js I'm also using for error handling. So I have some error handling things are here as well. So handle errors, right? So some function which handle errors, right? Also, I have some validations over here. So because this is a utility class, a lot of things are there in this JS file. So I have logging functions, I have error handling functions, I have validation check functions, and so on. So now let us assume that there is a developer who wants to go and use the logging functionality which is available in this utilities.js. So all these logging functionalities which are available, he wants to utilize in his program, right? So he has created a simple client.js file. So let's assume that this developer is from some far geographical area, right? And he is in need of this utility.js and specifically the logging functionality, right? So he goes ahead in his program and he goes and he adds a file called as client.js. So from in this client.js, he wants to go and consume the utilities.js, but he is only interested in the logging functionality. So let us say that this is the client. So in this, let's say that he has an add method. So over here now, he wants to go and use the logging functionality provided by utilities.js. So now this programmer who is actually going to go and consume these logging functions, right? For him, it is very difficult because there are logging functions as well as there are error handlers as well as there are validations. So he's quite confused about how to access this logging event, logging file, right? So in other words, he comes back to you and says that is it possible that you can go and group these functions into modules? So you can say, okay, here is a module which is for logging, here is a module which is for error handling, and here is a module which is for validations. So that's where CommonJS gave one variable called as exports. So he said that, okay, a person who is creating his library, in the exports variable, he will put all those things which he wants to expose out to the external world. So in short, over here, what I will do is I will have a exports function, exports variable, I'm sorry, right? And in this exports variable, I say, okay, so one module. So in this exports variable, I will say, okay, so we have a module called as logging. Logging. We have a module, where exports. We have a module called as error handling. We have a module called as validations, right? So the developer who is actually who has actually created this library, what he does is he creates a variable called as exports. Now this exports variable has to be written as it is, like e small, x small, and it is a plural, exports, right? So what he says is that, okay, so the logging one, he says that, okay, exports dot logging, the first thing is we have a event logger. So this is where you say, okay, so this is the new, so you can either give the logging event as well, right? Then he says again exports, not export, exports plural. In the same way he says, okay, so here is the file logger, so logging file, and here is email logger. So the developer who has created this module has created an exports variable, and in that exports variable he has various modules like logging, error handling, validations, and so on. Now the consumer, that is this client here, who wants to go and consume this utilities.js, what he has to say over here, he has to say that, okay, where logger, okay, or logger module is equal to require. So I'll say that, okay, go ahead and load utilities.js file, right? The time you load the utilities.js file, inside that you get actually all the modules, right? So you will get the full exports actually, right? So you will actually get this full exports, and inside the exports, inside the logging, you will start getting the things, right? So basically I can say here, okay, where event is equal to exports dot, so in the exports I have logging and event, right? So I'll say here create object of event. So you can see now, as a consumer, it is very easy for me. I have to just go to the exports, and then I can go to the logging functionality, or I can go to the to the error handling functionality, right, or the module, and from there I can go to the relevant function which I want, right? So CommonJS is all about how in JavaScript two programmers who are working on modules can interact with each other. Because if you look at today's GitHub, we have Angular happening, then we have TypeScript happening, then somebody's creating Node.js, right? And at the end of the day, all of these guys have to collaborate with each other, right? And JavaScript, at least till ES5 lags that thing of modular development, right? So the way developers at that time were working out is by using CommonJS. So in CommonJS, the person who is actually creating the library will create an exports variable, and in that exports variable he will put all the things which he wants to give it out to the universe out there, right? And the person who is consumed will use the require keyword to get the object. So we can say that CommonJS is nothing but it is a specification, It is a specification, in which, we use the require and the exports to define dependencies between two modules. Now remember, as I've said, it's a specification. So in short, if you try to use the client.js in your UI, it's not going to work, right? So if you try to go and do like this, let's say you have dropped in client.js, and if you say, okay, can I go and create an object of client, it's not going to work out. So if you try to do this, and if you say new client, right, and if you say x.add, this is not going to work out. So if I try to run this, it will throw me exception, because these require and the exports are just specification, right? You need something more than that on which you need to build things. So if you try to run this F12, if I try to do, I would get some kind of an exception here saying that require is not defined, because in JavaScript, we do not have any keyword called as require, right? It is more of a specification, right? So CommonJS is just a specification. In order to implement CommonJS, we need to use some open source framework like System.js, Require.js, some kind of a ES6 module loader. So we need to have a loader who understands, how to use the require and the exports keyword, to create objects and to load JS files, right? So there are a lot of module loaders out there. At this moment, we're going to go and use System.js. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and use System.js. System.js is a module loader. Already, we have one video of System.js, which I've explained. So we had one video in the TypeScript, we have the explanation of System.js, So if you see System.js, it's a module loader. You can see it says that it is a module loader, and if you go into the System.js notes, it says that I'm a module loader who understands who can load modules by using CommonJS format, somewhere who can load any module format. So when you say load any module format, you will see that he is loading these kinds of formats. So he can load CommonJS, he can load ECMA, he can load AMD, and so on. So basically CommonJS is one of the formats. In the later videos, I will discuss about AMD, I will discuss about other different types of module formats as well. But CommonJS is a specification. It is a module format, wherein the dependencies between two modules are defined by using require and exports. So now let us go ahead and use System.js, and let us see that can System.js go and load both of my JS files, right? So already I have the System.js over here, right? So I have done npm and I've installed System.js. In case you are new to npm, I would suggest to go and watch the videos of Node.js and npm, which will help you to understand, how to get the JavaScript packages from the internet, right? So I have the System.js, so I'm going to go and download, I'm going to go and pull up the System.js on my HTML, right? And over here now I will go and I will write System.js syntaxes, which will help me to invoke my client as well as my utility objects. Now, because that you have used the CommonJS to define the dependency, right? You don't have to go and do these things. For example, normally, when you're invoking these clients, right? These kind of JS, what you do is that first you keep client.js, and client.js depends on utility.js, right? So basically what you do is that in normal JavaScript, you used to actually put a script tag on the top, and you used to ensure that this script tag is in a sequence, and then you used to create an object, right? But in this case, you don't have to do, because now we have used CommonJS. What you can really do is you can just say System.js dot import. So you will just give the first file, which is there in this whole thing is the client.js. So the client.js has the require keyword. So what will happen now? System.js will go to client.js. He will find that there is a require keyword, and he will see in the require keyword he needs utility.js. So he will use the utility.js and invoke utility.js. So basically, that kind of recursive loading, or I will say like loading all the dependent components is done automatically, because now you are following CommonJS pattern, right? So all the module loaders, they follow the CommonJS pattern. they support the CommonJS pattern almost. So we'll say here, okay, so system.js dot import. So once the client is imported, then please allow us to access the modules. So whatever are the modules, or I will say the exports object, please allow us to access that, right? So console.log exports. Let us see what he shows here, right? So I'm going to go and run this, Control F5. Let me also go in a debug mode to just check what is happening. So what I will do is I will put a debug point here and let me reload. So now what this system.js does, it actually goes to the client.js. He looks at client.js and he sees that, okay, client.js also needs utility.js. So you will see that in the request, both of the JS files are now getting invoked. So you can see that because we are following CommonJS, the system.js is happily investigating the require field. He is happily investigating the exports field. And from that, he has figured out that yes, first he has to invoke client.js and then he has to invoke utility.js. In case the utility.js had a require keyword here, he would have also invoked the other JS also, right? And once it is invoked, right, what he does is he provides the objects in the export. So if you go to the exports, we don't find anything over here. That is so sad. You can see that in the exports there is nothing, because even the client.js now has to be exported, right? So in short, what we also have to do is we have to say here export the client. Even the client has to export himself so that he is available to the web page. If you don't have this exports, the system.js says that if there is no exports, that means that the module does not have anything to give out to the universe, right? So now let me do it again. So let me reload. So there it is. Now if you see the exports, you can see the client is here. So now what I can do is I can do the following. So I can say, okay, I can say here where x is equal to new exports dot client, right? And exports, remember exports, and I will just try to call the add method, right? So I'll just say here add method, right? Now let us try to reload. Let us see that if this thing works. So there it is exports. Now if I do a F11, it goes here. Now this actually is requesting the utility.js, right? So it goes and it requests to the utility.js, and in the utility.js I'm not getting anything. Why? So you can see that I'm not getting any objects. Let us try to figure out why. So I debugged offline, and the problem was, that I had given a var here, so it should just be exports. Okay, so just exports, and then so it should not be a declaration like this. Okay, so let me go and do a Control F5. Let us run. Let us see that if the magic of CommonJS is loading both the components in one go, and is it able to figure out the dependencies as well, right? So let me run in debug mode, reload this. So slash, so there it is. So let me go to the sources and let us see. Let us put a debug point here, right? Let me run this. So there it is, it goes here, and system.js then goes through, it uses the require and it loads it, and you can see now it has given me the logging object, and in that all the objects, right? So you can see now, because of the modules variable, I'm able to see the whole JS file in terms of modules. So I have a error module, I have a logging module, and logging module then has file logging and event logging and email. And you can see at this moment I'm creating an object of the event logging. So there it is, creating the object, and there it is. And you can see in the network tab, he has loaded automatically both the files. So basically CommonJS is nothing but it is a kind of a specification. In this specification, the person who creates the library uses the exports variable, right, to export out the objects, right, using the module.exports, while the client, who is actually going to consume that component will use the require keyword. So by using both of them, we can define dependencies between JavaScript code, right? So in short, if I put CommonJS has the following uses. First one, it gives us a modular way of looking at JavaScript. Second, it gives us a standard way of communicating and consuming components. So standard way of exposing the components and standard way of consuming the components. But now when we talk about big projects, it is very difficult to create dependencies using such a way, right? Means think about that, you have 50-60 components and each one of those components are using each other. So you need to use require, then you need to use exports, you need to ensure that things are correct and so on, right? So the good thing is that languages like TypeScript, Babel, internally they support CommonJS. So everybody is supporting CommonJS. For example, you just saw that we have loaders like System.js, Require.js, and ES6 loader. They all support the format of CommonJS. So for example, let us say that even if you're using TypeScript, the good part is that it will also it also has a support for CommonJS. So finally, when you actually compile your program, you will find that they do support the CommonJS format. For example, let us say now I go and I create a file using TypeScript. So let us say I create a customer.ts, right? Okay, and let us say I have address.js ts. So I have a customer and an address, and let's say that the address is consumed inside the customer. So basically over here, the person will say export class address, right? Now the time he does that, so wherever we have this export, if you go and if you see the compiled output of this, so if you go and if you see the address.js, you would see that he is actually using an exports keyword internally. So you can see that at the end of the day, all of these technologies like TypeScript, Babel, even the loaders, they are all following CommonJS internally. So they understand CommonJS. So you can see now I have said here export in TypeScript, and internally he made it a CommonJS format, right? In the same way, if I go to customer TS here, so let us say in this customer TS, I'm saying I want to go and use that address. So let us say I'll say here import from. In case you are new to TypeScript, I would suggest to go and watch our TypeScript videos. So we have a learn TypeScript in 1 hour training. So go and watch that, you will understand what is TypeScript. So in this video I will not be going through what exactly is TypeScript, right? So here I'm saying okay, import address. So address.ts. So I can just say address, right? And let us say in this I am trying to create an object of address. Why isn't it identifying address? So I have said export here. Strange. Yeah, it's identifying now, right? So now I can say here x is equal to new address, right? So if you see now, this is the caller, right? So if you see the output of the caller code, you can see that he is using the require. Can you see that? If you see the output of the library, he is using exports. So basically even languages like TypeScript, Babel, they also follow CommonJS internally, right? So yes, CommonJS is nothing but it is a specification which tells you that how two modules would define their dependencies, right? So if you want to define dependencies between two modules, you can use CommonJS. So that brings us to the end of this video. In this video, we were trying to understand what exactly is CommonJS specification and what is the importance of it. Now, connection to this CommonJS video, I'm going to go and create two more videos. One is for AMD and UMD. Now, AMD and UMD are again specifications like CommonJS, and they do something more than what CommonJS does, right? So basically, AMD, UMD, and CommonJS, they are nothing but they are specifications which define how two modules would define their dependency, how the caller and the callee will define their dependency. So thank you very much, and keep learning. Thank you.